Something like that, yes.
To buy books.
English books.
Okay, now so
To make Hong Kong a real international city, a so-called Asia's world city.
the English language in Hong Kong, you pointed out people should buy English books, but you and I, Chip, know that English standards have deteriorated in Hong Kong.
Well,
How do you solve that?
Because Hong Kong has long been designed as a money-making city. So English teaching or English learning in Hong Kong has been modeled in the way that you use the language to sign contracts, to write memos between government officials, and just to communicate on prices and the leases, you know, on things like what under the table, right, license, you know, the kind of amount or things like that, right?
Yeah.
So very few people in Hong Kong, even in the colonial days, were used to reading literature, right? So reading English literature, say, during the colonial years, was rather a profession for the elite.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there just for a moment. Back soon, don't go away.
So I think
Why is it that our language has dropped, English language standards have dropped so badly?
well, for political and cultural reasons, and many people live now under the myth that China is going to be at least the economic superpower in the 21st
Why do you call
century.
that a myth? It's become a
I have
reality
been reading a lot of Chinese columns calling for the scrap of English language education altogether in Hong
Scrapping
Kong.
it altogether in Hong Kong.
And asking questions like, what's the point? Because one day, you know, Americans or Caucasians, they're going to speak Chinese anyway, right?
Stories like
Are
that.
published quite prominently in Hong Kong's Chinese newspaper.
But you
so
know,
that people, well, I think, would prefer living under this myth, the myth that one day, as a Chinese, both as a Chinese and a global citizen, English can be done without.
Regardless of what some of the newspapers say that schools in Sweden will one day teach in Chinese,
I don't think that's
but
true.
regardless
I hope
of
so.
that, most Hong Kong people, many of them, are still very obsessed with learning English. You know that.
Well, they are, yes.
Why is that?
But English teaching is, has been rather rigid in Hong Kong. Many people have been taught in a fundamentally grammatical way. They're obsessed with grammar, so they treat learning English as similar to learning, you know, maths
or science
or physics,
something. Right.
Trying to learn by heart grammatical rules. Well, that's necessary, but rules can change during the time.
And they do.
Yes, they do. So Hong Kong's English, well, you'll be surprised, is more or less grammatically very accurate, but Hong Kong's English lacks the charm or the kind of
It's not even
literary
grammatically.
charisma.
It tries to be grammatically accurate, but it's not always the case.
Well, you are in a better position to judge.
As you know, I do a column in a Chinese paper about English, and you're right.
What about government documents?
I know I get emails from readers saying, how about the grammatical point here and there? They're very obsessed with grammar and not the language itself.
Not the language, right.
But you know, you're a Chinese from Hong Kong. Tell me why. Is it a leftover from the British or what?
Well, the British never cared, right? And English teaching has been introduced in some very elite schools, and grammar has been an obsession for most Hong Kong students, and they stopped at it. It's just grammar, nothing more. So
and that's in fact impeding their knowledge of the language, because they're being weighed down with this obsession with the grammar.
Yeah, so grammar becomes some kind of shackles or
Right.
burden, rather than helping them to take off like a plane.